Last time the PCA visited Watkins Glen, it looked quite a bit different. But iRacing's recent revamp of this popular circuit not only breathes new life into it, but brings new challenges. Different curbing and different runoff means those who adapt will be rewarded, and those stuck in their old ways will either be left behind or maybe in the wall. Let's see who likes the new digs as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 8 live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark and Rachel Whiteford. Cameron Aubernon is on social media along with Ryan Bauer producing, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. And as we mentioned, as we show up here to Watkins Glen, a classic venue, it'll be familiar to many of the drivers, but our viewers might not know of this place, so let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long time. Well, I'm pretty certain, DJ, that the drivers are going to be excited to get to start things off here as we get ready to watch the challenge class. But tell us a little bit about how these new Cup cars are going to handle at Watkins Glen.
Well, Joe, obviously these new Cup cars, no traction control, no ABS, so the heavier braking zones around here can really throw off the cars, and they've got to be especially careful coming through the boot section of the track, as it's going to be very easy to spin those rear tires through the chute, the toe, and the heel. The best overtaking opportunity, well, that's really going to be going down into the outer loop. Obviously, no bus stop section here, so that means the draft is going to have increased efficacy as we work our way around. But the outer loop isn't the heaviest of braking zones, so it's going to be a little bit of mix and match there as they go around. Also have to be very careful coming back onto the track through turn 9 out of the boot and back onto the NASCAR portion of the track, is that elevation and surface change can really throw these cars off. You got to be very careful, but the most crucial corner around here, that's turn 1. You've got to nail that corner so you can get a good draft up the S's and maybe set yourself up for a good run into 5.
I got a feeling we'll see plenty of attempts at passing. Now the question is whether they'll actually be successful. And we're waiting for the first few laps to be put on the board here in qualifying. But Rachel, the other thing that I feel like isn't talked about enough as a feature of this track is just how little room there is up to the barriers. They're right next to the track in some places.
Yeah, they certainly are. And this is one of those features about Watkins Glen we really like. There are consequences for mistakes. This is not an all-concrete, paved over Tilcadrome where you've got runoff everywhere. There's nothing. There are places like coming up here through the S's and the big climb. You make a mistake, you're screwed. It's a consequence, and I think this is necessary for racing. We want to keep it safe, of course, but racing also needs to have a reason why you should or shouldn't do something, and I think in this case it's important.
Indeed, and let's hope that not too many are taken out by that, as it looks like we've got a few putting laps down now, and Chad Dick has the provisional pole in the 930. It looks like we're still waiting about half the fields to set the first lap time. They get 3 laps to try and set a time. And if they do go off track, there is some paved runoff that is kind of one of those modern features that has crept into this track and since the recent build. So they can find their laps deleted by going over the boundaries. But as we hop on board with Chad here, DJ, looks like he's got a pretty good handle on it. Oh, and he's just been overtaken by Mark Lecombe.
Yes, he has, and there is Mark. You saw Chad there, by the way, taking a very wide exit out of the outer loop, out of turn 5. That is natural. That is considered within track boundaries. There are a couple of areas like that on this circuit where those off tracks are not necessarily going to count on the exit of the heel and the exit of the outer loop, 2 of those areas in particular.
Indeed, and Mark coming into the outer loop here, and a little bit of a shallow entry it looks like, but it didn't hurt him too badly on that first time around. He's about 800ths away from Scott Kessel currently, who has also gone quicker than Chad Dick, but all of them have laps left to try and improve. So this is by no means over in these 10 minutes of qualifying, and down into the toe of the boot. So far, so good for Lecombe. It does look like his time is improving, Rachel, so he might be able to extend that gap.
Yeah, I was hoping to get something good in here to shove that forwards, but yeah, the gap is looking strong for potential, I think, for him. It's close as all. Chad Dick comes through and takes that pole position right now, in fact, with a 144.929, so that's a big change.
And we just saw on the screen a little bit of a slide out of the heel from Mark. So this one probably no longer looking like a quick one. Thomas Briggs, in the meantime, is coming around to try and get one onto the board. His first lap was deleted. He's got enough time to get both of these final ones down, as it's just under 2 minutes to try and complete a lap for most of the drivers here in the challenge class. It's himself, Olin Murphy, James Hemig, Steve Komatz, Freddie Lopez, and Chris Sari that still have not set a single lap time.
Yeah, Joe, and the number 8 here, this is going to be a car to keep an eye on. He was the fastest in the practice session, so he's clearly got some speed underneath that machine. He's really going to try to push it here as he comes through the penultimate corner. A little bit of curbing, that's a great line. That's another area you're not going to get an off track if you run a little bit wide.
Well, there's no off track right there in that final turn where it's right up against the wall, almost like a street course. And as he crosses, it's a 45.1. That is actually good enough for the front row, but he's still a quarter of a second off of Chad Dick after Chad's second lap. In fact, our current pole sitter is coming through the final 2 corners right now, Rachel, and I'm looking at his time. Doesn't look like he's on a hot one, but you never know.
I don't think so, but we could see how that might change with a little bit of time left in the session. There's time to do one if he gets his lap good, but it's going to be really tight.
Looks like he does not improve, sadly. Behind him, Freddie Lopez just finally got one down. This is Chris Sari, who is on his first flyer, so has gotten out a little bit late. In fact, not sure after this lap if he'll be able to do any more. So the 27 is under the gun to really get one clean here, even if it isn't quick, to try and improve on the starting position. Komatz, who also doesn't have a time left, is on his final flying lap. And as he crosses, it's a 46.7. That'll put him into the mid-pack into 16th, DJ, so at least he's represented.
Indeed he is. Here's another driver yet to set a time, the 986 of James Hemig, as he works his way down towards the heel. Let's see how he takes this corner. It's a deceptive corner here, Joe. You think you've really got to slow down for it, but the truth is you want to run very, very wide there, carry as much momentum through the apex as possible. He's just going to hope here, though, to get a good time down on the board and be able to move his way up of one of the 2 drivers who haven't set a time.
Got about a minute and a half left, so this is going to be the only time he's able to set. In fact, it looks like it's the last of his 3 regardless. So that black 986 comes down to the start line, and will it count? No, it will not, but Thomas Briggs just had his final lap, and he was almost half a second quicker than Chad Dick. He has responded, Rachel, and in a big way.
Oh, absolutely huge there. Briggs putting in a massive lap. And we've seen some big separation out of front. Of course, Sachs as well. These guys are all about a half a second apart from each other until we get to Sachs and Lecombe. and down towards Kessel as well. And then it jumps up about half a second down to Iwata. So this really makes things quite interesting. We have a big separation in our front group.
30 seconds left, and both Sari and Himmick are out of time now to set a time. So that is it for them. I see Olin Murphy coming around, but it looks like he just had a bit of an off, so I think he is done. Steve Komatz is done, and yep, that is everybody who is able to set a time. That means it's time to go through our starting order for the evening, and Thomas Briggs, as we mentioned, managed to take the pole, much like his quickest time in the practice session. Chad Dick starts to his outside. It'll be Mike Sachs starting from third with Mark Lacombe in fourth. After that, Scott Kessel will be P5 and Stacy Iwata in sixth. Randy Lervold starts from seventh, followed by David Purdy in eighth and Jack Stevenson in ninth. John Gibson, DJ, will round out your top 10.
Stephen Linz will be lining up in 11th, followed by Jonathan Reber with Chad Casion and Robert Benson behind them. Michael Adams will be in 15th, followed by Steve Komatz with Bruce Friobe in 17th and Jason Sherwood 18th. Jeff Lashaway comes in 19th, and Graham Rennie will round out your top 20, Rachel.
21st is Andrew McCune there with 22nd, Stefan Iridaka, with Johan Nye in 23rd, Olan Murphy in 24th. 25th place is the 404 of Freddie Lopez, James Hemmick and Chris Sari in 26th and 27th, yet to set a time.
Almost have everybody out on the grid already here. So we're going to get the green flag pretty soon. We are waiting on our pole sitter to put himself out there, along with Gibson and Cassian in the 379. And again, standing start. They cannot jump the start either. That'll be an automatic penalty no matter what. They cannot clear that. So they have to make sure and keep the cars still all the way until they get the go from Barney up on the flag stand. And Thomas Briggs definitely waiting quite a long time here before he comes out to his starting position. He is allowed to wait a full 2 minutes if he desires. So he's got the time now. He's out there. And they have pretty good conditions here today at only 69 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's going to be a good one as the green flag is out. And Briggs is not off the line very quickly. Chad Dick is trying to come up around his outside as they plunge down to the first corner, but Chad breaks very early. And Mike Sachs is all the way up into second, past him. Into third goes Kessel. Very horrible first corner, Rachel, for Chad Dick.
Yeah, that's definitely changed things up quite a bit. We've had some chaos in the background as things get a little bit spicy off this first, standing start here, starting season 8, and wow, all over the place cars at left, right, and center.
Oof, unfortunately in the back, almost a blocked track, a number of cars making contact. Thankfully, many of them able to slow up in time. Not sure if we'll get a replay of that, but Thomas Briggs now has a clear track in front of him. He's already gapped Sachs by about 1.1 seconds. Kessel still in third as look at the battle for fourth place. It's Lacombe and Dick still can't manage to get one of these back. Oh, and a spin in front of them. That is going to be Scott Kessel around out of the chute, DJ.
Indeed it is. Ooh, very late onto the brakes. There was Chad Dick going down into the toe. And that spin there, it's a cool track right now, only 69 degrees. I think that is a prime example of what I was talking about, Joe, getting on the power a little bit too early and spinning those rear tires for Scott Kessel.
So now your podium is Briggs, Sachs, and Lacombe instead. But it looks like Lacombe's going to have to work really hard along with Chad Dick to manage to get back in the hunt as Michael Adams is going to get squeezed. A little bit of contact between them. He's out into the grass. Thankfully, they do not spin from it, but they're already elbows out.
And really pushing this thing as we go through back to end of lap here. And this has been a very interesting first lap we've seen from this position. It's spread the field more than I think I expected it to, guys, but moved there by, I saw the 6 actually on my monitor there, making a good move. So we have a couple of cars heading down pit road. Not sure whether they're start violations or from orange zone matters, but it's definitely gotten busy already.
That looks to be Lashway. I think he has a meatball flag, so he's been forced to come in to take repairs because of an unsafe condition on the car. Yeah, in the background, we saw Stephen Linz, the 046, make a bit of a dive, and unfortunately it didn't stick. Meanwhile, weaving back and forth, looking to try and overtake Iwata. Adams, who was squeezed off a little bit earlier as we rode on board, is still doing all he can. DJ, and he won't have to, as Iwata just spun off.
He did indeed, just spinning up those rear tires off of the outer loop, and that's going to send him right around. It looks like Iwata's going to try to recover here, hopefully be able to gain a couple of positions back. He is going to end up in 11th behind Scott Kessel.
So we hop up to Chad Dick, still stuck in that 4th position despite great qualifying pace. Doesn't seem to have the chops to make some overtakes here. Mark Lacombe in front of him in the 19. Has got himself up 1 spot. So does Mike Sachs. Both of them making those overtakes right at the very start. And around turn 9, Rachel, on to the main course once again. This is all way behind Briggs. 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, that gap has really opened up very, very quickly, of course, back towards Mike Sachs there in second. You can see him, Metropolitan New York driver, moving forwards. It's definitely been interesting so far, of course. Our leader, Thomas Briggs, is a fantastic driver. We've seen him in this challenge group, of course. Hometown is Dallas for that driver, and he's actually only been sim racing for a month. Yeah, a month.
Well, he's got some good stuff ahead of him then. If this is what he's able to do after only a month, he's looking pretty handy right now. Oh, and we've had a spin for Michael Adams, it looks like. So he is going to lose some spots as well. Remember, he was chasing Iwata when Iwata spun. And this, DJ, might be a case of who keeps it on the island the best.
Yeah, it looks like attrition starting to play a big role here as this is Mark Lacombe looking down to the inside of Mike Sachs into the outer loop. It's going to be a battle of the late breakers. Lacombe has a nose ahead as they get halfway through the corner. He's going to try to feed that car out a little bit and cut off the nose of Mike Sachs. Textbook there for Mark Lacombe.
Guys, Comat's just a huge run there. He ended up sideways, unfortunately, in the S-turn. Caused some traffic block up for our guys.
So that's the 2nd time already in this race. And yeah, just spun and wrecked it on his own. Unfortunately, haven't seen a car spin through the S's in some time that wasn't a Lotus 49 or something of that ilk. So that was a bit strange as we come back to our leader. So another change in the podium positions. Lacombe now in 2nd, Mike Sachs in 3rd, and still Chad Dick behind both of them in 4th in the yellow and blue that you see. We've also had a black flag handed out to John Gibson for a bad re-entry. So he's already been a little bit naughty in these first 5 minutes of the race. Hopefully we won't get too many more of those.
No, indeed. I hope we will not, as here we continue to focus in on Lacombe. Sachs doing a good job of keeping up behind. I thought Mark may have been able to streak away a little bit here, but Sachs being able to keep that gap under 3/10 of a second, breaking down into the 90. That's a late apex, though. He missed it there a little bit, and that's going to cost him a whole bucket load of time.
Well, this is great news for Chad Dick. The 930 is starting to close in. He's got both a better run and the slipstream, so a double whammy over that orange and blue 599. As he starts to catch, we hop on the roof cam, watching to see which way he decides to go. Down to the inside, covering. Mike Sachs goes defensive. Can Dick do it around the outside? We've already seen at least one driver manage it. He's going to try to be the second, and he hangs tough, but he's not ahead. And now Sachs can shut the door, Rachel.
Yeah, he absolutely did, and Sachs really holding on to this one as he's trying to find an opportunity here just to keep that closed from Chad Dick. It's a tricky place to pass here, and he's got to be careful, but I think Dick has got an opportunity as they come out of the boot there to put the power on earlier and get a little bit of movement, but right now he's going to ride this thing.
He's making sure to make a race out of it. He may have lost those spots early, but he's trying his darndest to get him back down into the heel of the boot. Chad is within about 0.4 of a second. He's got to be closer if he really wants to try and attack. This is a little too far behind, but he is keeping the pressure on out of turn 9. And that was wide, DJ, from Mike Sachs. So we're seeing a few cracks in there.
Yeah, we are indeed. Sachs not running in exactly a perfect race here, but Chad Dick just doesn't seem like he really has the chutzpah to be able to get himself on by as they continue to go around here. We've seen Chad just be a little bit softer on the brakes, a little bit earlier on the brakes, and I think that's coming back to hurt him.
All right, let's see if he's learned anything then in the last lap or two. And this one a little bit better, but Chad is actually managing to keep with him once again. He's about as close as he was last time, just doesn't have the same run. This will give us a good indication of just how much that slipstream is worth. It was just about 4/10 as they came up the hill. It's just at 0.25 tenths now, and down to 2 by the time they hit the brakes. He takes a look to the inside, but it doesn't look like, Rachel, he's able to do it this time. So it looks like maybe a couple tenths that it's worth heading their way along the backstretch.
Yeah, I think it is, and it's going to come down to that sort of thing between these guys, as Saxon's going to try and just stretch this thing out, because if he doesn't, Jantic will try and find the opportunity to get through there if he can, and it's going to be really difficult to hold that back once he gets a good run, so he's have to be really careful.
In spite of the off a little bit earlier, look at this with Michael Adams. He is up 6 spots here, trying to make it 7, as he's racked up to the back of Scott Kessel. But Scott's also trying to recover after he gave away a podium position with a spin at the start, DJ.
Yeah, indeed he is. And now that he's been able to settle back down in here a little bit more, Kessel, I think, starting to run some more consistent laps. He was able to put down a 45.5 last time out. That's about on pace with your top 4 or 5. Little bit of a look there for Adams, just trying to carry some more momentum out of turn 9.
Yeah, slipped up, unfortunately. So it looks like the 992 starting to fall away. That is certainly a desirable number now this season that they've switched over to this new Cup car. And from what we saw, because we got to watch it in action as well, Rachel, not just with the endurance race recently at Road America. Whoa, is deep on the brakes! And Adams manages to keep from hitting Kessel, but doesn't keep it on the road. He'll get back on using that paved runoff. But I was going to say, Rachel, that this 992 seems to suit these drivers well. It put on some good racing in the Zone Group Challenge.
Yeah, it absolutely did. It's been a fantastic car for these guys to drive, and it's definitely opened up the racing, I think, a little bit more. It's provided a more visceral experience for the drivers, which of course makes a more visceral experience for us, the viewer, as it just has the racing so much closer. It's harder to drive. They're having to work it more.
Looks like we had an overtake between Graham Rennie and Chris Sari. Remember, Chris was not able to set a lap time. He's gone up from 27th here to, well, just about, as he's still side by side. Graham Rennie trying to take that 12 spot back, but no, P12 for the number 27 car. And he's not letting a poor qualifying DJ hold him up.
No, he's not, and that's not entirely uncommon here. We see a lot of drivers that don't exactly have the best qualifying pace. They can't string a single lap together to really get a good pressure down, but they do have some great race pace once they're able to get into a good rhythm, a good momentum around the circuit, and that certainly seems like what we're looking at here.
Little look to the inside, and Graham wants that spot back badly. He's fought back twice now. Behind them, they've got Johan Nye in the 141 starting to approach, so we could have a 3-way fight. Nye is a lap down already, so somehow he's had a bad enough day that he is not in contention here. But finally, Graham has to give up the ghost, as it looks like he does not have enough pace. Oh, and Adams is in pit lane. Not sure what happened here, Rachel.
Yeah, I didn't catch the initial part for Adams. I will take a look for you and try and find out what happened to that guy. But the 992 is, let's find out what happened. A little bit earlier on in this very lap, I think it may have been he ran wide. He clipped the wall through the carousel and just caught a little bit of the side.
So as we hop back on board with our third place runner, Mike Sachs is now much farther ahead from Dick. In fact, you might be able to see, yeah, here as we hop off, that is the distance now. It is about 1.9 seconds up to the podium, and instead Sachs is trying to keep up with Lacombe. So while, yes, Briggs has made it not much of a race for the lead, DJ, it seems like this podium has been a hot potato.
Yeah, it certainly has. And, behind Chad Dick, he's got a nice little bit of breathing room. So he can really focus here on just trying to run the best race that he wants to run, keeping everything nice and tight and close behind. As this battle, though, between Lacombe and Sachs, if this really fires off, that's going to put Chad Dick in the popcorn position. He will be able to gain massively from any kind of fight these two may have.
Just behind them, does look like, is that Purdy behind? No, that's a lapped car, it looks like, that is on the tail of Chad Dick. That's Jack Stevenson. But look at this. This is Lervold, who is going to try to go to the inside of Purdy, and that is for 5th place, but Purdy denies him around the outside of turn 1. That actually might have been the better way to go, Rachel, because it looks like he had a much better launch.
Yeah, I think he did. The outside is actually can be pretty good for you here, but that inside, that first corner really hasn't changed a lot. So the crossover is always the #1 move for that first corner.
Well, they have crossover here because defending once again, Purdy on the inside, Lervold around the outside, cuts back but can't get it down to the apex. That's not going to do it for the number 6 as we hop on board with him, switching across to the right-hand side, plunging into the chute. And we still aren't even at the halfway point of this race, so we have to remember we still have all 27 cars out there. Those who had damage managed to hop into a spare car and get running once again, DJ. So it's still a relatively full track here in the challenge class, but it's not over by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it's certainly not. And as you mentioned, all these drivers continuing to go around here at sort of their own different paces. So that is going to present some lap traffic problems for these drivers. In particular, as we continue to watch Purdy and Lervold right now, Jack Stevenson in 23rd is about, let's call it 6 seconds up the road from them. So they'll catch up to him here in probably 4 or 5 laps time. And that could present a little bit of a roadblock specifically to Purdy.
Oof, one of our higher starters, Scott Kessel, unfortunately had a big hit in the toe of the boot, smashed it into the barrier, and might have to come down to take that spare car. Here we go once again. Is Lervold going to be able to get this one done finally? He's been working on it for multiple laps. Purdy does not defend. He knows that outside line is the better way to go. And once again, look at the launch as he just denies Randy each and every time they come through the 90 up along the front stretch. In fact, Rachel, almost looks like it's good enough that he's pulled out of the draft.
That might be the case here. If he's going to have space here, he could have actually just done that, but the gap is looking reasonably possible for that. Yeah, I think he has.
Well, he is far enough away that there's certainly no attack from the 6 car. We've had a couple more black flags. Bruce Froby, it looks like Olin Murphy also have been sent to pit lane to serve those. I think they might have already served them and been back out. No, it looks like Murphy's doing his right now, so he'll return somewhere around 19th or 20th position into the heel of the boot. Is this for second? It is. Sachs and Lacombe are going to try and stay side by side as they switch back into turn 9. And it looks like Mark is a little wide on the exit. Mike Sachs using that exit speed well. It'll give him the inside into the penultimate turn. And unfortunately, he does not have the grip there. Mark is able to retain second, but now, DJ, look at this. Chad Dick is back in the mix.
He certainly is. That's a little bit of a look to the inside there for Mike Sachs. See if he can maybe have a move down into the 90. Chad Dick is just going to sit back here, break a little bit early. I like that decision. Let everything pop off in front of him a little bit, as that's going to be Sachs able to get the move done through the 90 on Mark Lacombe.
Boy, he's been wanting that one for a while, and looks like Chad Dick has a best opportunity he's seen in some time. But it's Mark Lacombe instead who's now on the attack as he goes off to the left-hand side, coming down into the outer loop. He's going to have to be brave on the brakes, but he could use that banking to great effect as long as he can keep the momentum up. A big blink, unfortunately, having some connection problems. And that'll make it hard to race close. Indeed, he is going to back out of it, and Sachs will retain P2. I'm not sure how hard he can race like that, Rachel, because that could cause problems.
Yeah, really good. You've got to moderate, especially this time of the race. You're not even halfway through. You've got to have tires left at the end of this thing. So if you keep going too hard, that car will not be there at the end.
Ooh, I think we have a scheduled stop for one of our drivers. David Purdy has been in and out. So that looks like that is going to potentially kick off a series of pit stops as we continue to watch Dick LeCoumbe and Sachs back into turn 9 once again. This is kind of where it started to erupt here. And different lines, ooh, almost into the grass there for the 19 car. And DJ, he's very lucky that he did not slip a wheel, because I've seen so many wrecks in that turn.
Yeah, as have I, Joe. And as I talked about, you're coming back onto the secondary circuit there, the circuit that NASCAR runs around here. And what that does is it's a change in elevation, very, very sudden. It's a lot like turn 6 at Road America, where it just suddenly flattens back out on you. And if you're not really on top of the car, you can spin the rear tires and lose handling in the rear. And I think that's a little bit of what just happened to Mark LeCoumbe, is he came over that edge, felt the car start to drift away, lose that tail end, and he had to chase it to the outside of the circuit.
Well, right now the tail that he is chasing is Mike Sachs still, who retains that second spot. And as Chad Dick gets ever closer, he's going to have to go from attack to defense, because the Connecticut Valley region driver is within a couple tenths of a second, but he's not as brave on the brakes. Rachel, that seems to have been his Achilles heel so far. We saw him lose multiple spots at the very first corner, and now when he was getting oh so close, he gave up a lot of time.
Yeah, sometimes going for a move when it's the wrong time will just cost you time rather than actually benefit you. So you end up actually hurting your race rather than helping it. And you can be a desperation thing sometimes. It's, oh, running wide there, loser, to back off here. You saw it there, to try and not run wide and into the barrier, and it just cost him so much exit speed. He's been almost dropped.
Yeah, that was Olin Murphy that they were trying to lap, so that was not for position, but he was in an awkward spot coming out of the toe of the boot for sure. And LeCoumbe has recovered a bit, trying to catch up to Mike Sachs. Let's see, maybe it's this section on the circuit though, DJ, because it seems like every time they get right about to around here, it seems like he can't get close enough.
Yeah, it really looks like he's struggling through turn 9 just a little bit, as that continues to be a theme here for Mark LeCoumbe. Although smart move here from Mike Sachs, just a little bit of a move off the line to try to break the draft. I do see behind him Olin Murphy diving down pit lane. Everybody working their way, though, in this battle through the 90. A little bit of a wider run than you'd like to see there from Mark LeCoumbe. After this track was reprofiled and rescanned, running super wide there at the 90 is not always the best way to go there, Joe. The curbs are a lot higher. They can bottom out on the car and actually cost you about a tenth of a second running that wide.
Absolutely, and they do have penalties if you abuse it too much. So meanwhile, stay defensive. Sachs into the outer loop. LeCoumbe gonna try and see if he can swing around him, which he does at first, but maybe he goes a little too hot into it. He's not quite past him. He falls back slightly. We watch from on board. Chad Dick keeps his nose in, down into the chute. It carries on side by side as it switches back now towards the toe of the boot, but Rachel, he gives up the ghost. He's trying everything, and we're starting to see that he's able to at least get to the side of him, but he can't get it done.
Yeah, it really does, and that's going to be one of those factors, I think, that you've got to put it in there a little bit harder. If you're going to commit to it, you've got to actually commit. And it was close, but it was no cigar.
Woo! Speaking of close, there goes Chad Dick, just about running into the side of LeCoumbe. We might want a replay of that one from on board the 930. He did a great job keeping it from becoming a wreck. Smoked the tire just to avoid smashing into that quarter panel. Here we go, DJ.
Yeah, indeed, he gets a pretty good run here out of the toe of the boot, going to drive the car in, but he's so far back, he just dives in. I think that was the situation that he was trying to remedy what we've sort of been a little bit critical of Chad Dick here for, which is trying to brake a little bit later into the corners and just misjudge the braking zone, locking up those fronts.
Certainly seems like it, and almost led him to the scene of an accident. Thankfully, they're back rolling, but now they finally spread apart. In the meantime, I'm seeing some more drivers in. Looks like Stephen Linz is pitting, so the 046 probably on a scheduled stop. This is our leader in the meantime, Thomas Briggs, probably content to be lacking a little bit of screen time here, Rachel, as it's been a quiet race from our perspective for the number 8 machine.
Yeah, it really has been quiet for the 8. The 8 has been just putting the race in where they needed to, and it's hard to have a busy race when you've got a gap of 13 seconds at this point. It's kind of crazy. He's been really pushing this thing, and that car is in great shape, but he's got the speed. And, well, it turns out he knows his way around this track, that's for sure. Although, did find out from some of the guys at the organization that apparently his fun story is that he once lost his parents twice at airports, both Reagan and Orlando. In fact, they had to shut down part of Orlando Airport to find him, so at least he knows this track.
Yeah, hard to get lost around here, but looks like Kessel has now pitted, so a few more drivers, at least with speed, not necessarily front runners, are starting to affect their strategy and down into the 90 once again. That last lap at about a 45.1. Not as quickest though. That was lap 4 for Thomas at a 44.5, and the quickest lap of the race, I believe. Yes, it looks like that is right now the fastest lap out there of anyone, as Radka is now in DJ in the 25 and got some more drivers in. Cassion is in there, Lopez as well, so it is really kicking off.
Yeah, indeed it is, Joe, and I anticipate pit stops probably having to be concluded here within about the next 4.5 to 5 minutes or so. That's going to be the end of the the pit stop window, unless we've seen some drivers be very aggressive. And speaking of aggressive, here comes Mark Lacombe.
This time he's got the inside, and Mike Sachs is going to work his hardest to keep him from completing that pass, and he does it. He fends him off from around the outside. That'll give him the inside into the chutes, and he has the spot right back. I wonder if there's going to be a little frustration starting to settle in, Rachel, underneath that helmet.
I think you could easily guess that. I know I would be in that situation. It's a difficult place to be there, but hey, sometimes racing's racing. You just got to go with what happens. But yeah, he'll be frustrated for sure.
So Lacombe, he's tried the inside, he's tried the outside, he's tried multiple corners, and nothing seems to work yet. That little side-by-side allowed the 930 to catch up. He had dropped to nearly a second back of them, and it's down to 4/10 once again. Coming off of turn 9. A little bit of a wide exit there from the yellow and blue machine, so he's going to fall back. As Briggs is in, so that is our leader now taking his fuel.
And it looks like based off the lines here, we're going to see Sachs, Lacombe, Dick all diving down pit lane as well. That's Robert Benson, a lapped car, in between them and the leader.
So we're only waiting on Lervold and Komats to pit. Everybody else has been down at least once. I see Lashway and Stevenson have not come in for about 12 laps, so they might still need to come down. In fact, yeah, they absolutely will need to still make a fuel stop. But this looks to be the end of the pit window, and Briggs is easily back out ahead of everyone. He does have a little lap traffic in front of him who's slightly slow. That's Hemmig in front of him. They had to check up. You cannot pass on the exit, Rachel, but thankfully he was heads up on that and didn't get a penalty.
Yeah, he just about held it back there, which is something you really have to think about as a racer, because he's only going to be thinking about, can I get past this guy? So yeah, passing the exit would have been very bad for his race position.
I've seen accidents happen on that pit exit before where drivers had to take avoiding action, still got a penalty because it's automated by iRacing, so it's not something that you can just get rid of. So unfortunately, you have to just kind of suck it up if you find yourself slowed up through there. Meanwhile, Chris Sari down in 13th here. It looks like lost one since we last looked at him, but this is after the pit stop, so he might be gaining one back. Yeah, because Stacey Iwata is in pit lane. So there goes one back to 12th and trying to make it 11th just in front. That's Sherwood in the number 11, but deep into the corner, DJ. Sari finds himself sorry for a flat spot now.
Yeah, indeed, Joe, and that's something that I've been watching here. I've been kind of keeping my eye out of the number 27 out of the corner of my eye. He's diving the car very aggressively into the corners, and as I talked about, with no ABS on these cars, it can really come back to bite you. You can't lean on the brakes in these Cup cars nearly as much as you could in the old GT3s. You've got to be a little bit more sensitive, feather the brakes a little bit as you come into the heavy braking zones, and be very careful about how much pressure you're going to be applying.
So one thing we didn't mention in those pit stops, too, is that it had a little bit of an effect on the battles, because Chad Dick, although he is faster in his pit stall, looks like he lost some time. And I'm not seeing it in cone to cone either, Rachel, so I wonder if he was just maybe kind of timid on his way into the braking on the pit entry or something here, because I would expect he'd be closer to them, but he wound up almost a second and a half back.
Yeah, he did seem to, and he's managed to claw it back, which is important, so hopefully we can see him get back with that one and do something with it. It's just going to be a struggle, I think, after burning up some.
Oh, Sherwood with a mistake off of turn 9. There goes Chris Sorry down to the inside, but he's timid on the brakes. Back around the outside, Jason Sherwood retains 10th spot, and off of the final corner. Ooh, it's not a good exit there, DJ. I think we could see a dive from Chris.
I think we could as well. He's certainly eyeing it up here. Here he comes. He's going to look down to the inside. He's got to be later under the binders into the 90. That is a big cut across there from Sherwood and able to carry that momentum. It's going to have to be another corner try here for Chris Sorry.
Yeah, just not deep enough. Didn't carry the speed off of it. Jason Sherwood still giving him a tow as we ride on board with the Golden Gate region driver. And he's gaining quickly. Sherwood has less than a tenth of a second now, pops to the outside. Chris Sorry going to try it for the second time in a lap as he comes up to the outer loop. But Sherwood, despite a shallow entry, stays ahead. Doesn't have the greatest of exits. That's Jack Stevenson. Oh, and just about takes out Sorry, who didn't see him up ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, he did not, and I hope he's not too sorry about that.
So they
sorry,
carry.
I had to.
Are you sure? As they come around.
Just be glad I didn't make any jokes about other names.
As they come off of the toe of the boot, the 27 chasing the 11 towards the heel now in front of them. That is Rennie in the red 281, pretty far distance ahead. So they're going to have to work together, or Sorry is going to have to make this overtake stick here if he wants to try and get even more spots, because that's a bit of a leap up there. And coming off of turn 9, this is where he got close last time. Doesn't look like DJ's close enough this time, though.
No, and runs a little bit wide there on the exit of the corner. You can see him just trying to dial that car up to get into a perfect line. Woo! Dare I say here, Chris Sorry's rear tires a little bit worn here at this place. It looks like he is just...
Maybe he's pulling a bit of an Earnhardt, and he'll apologize to them when he gets to the front as he continues to work and use them up in his attempts to pass quite a few cars in this field. As they come up the hill, he's very close this time, and Sherwood is going to hold the inside. Last time he was very shallow into the outer loop, and it still worked. Does he pull back out, or does he hold it to the inside all the way down, almost to the grass there? That's going to shorten his braking zone tremendously. And Chris Sorry still is not able to do it. Komat's behind him. That is for position. And Steve Komat's is now on the attack as Chris Sorry suddenly finds himself unable to hold him behind, or does he? Komat's is not able to make the move, Rachel, but he switches back down to the toe.
Yeah, he tried to really put it in there, but just couldn't quite hold it around the outside in that corner. As after he got the inside line through the carousel, he, of course, kicked back around and gave the bonus back towards Sorry as to coming down now through the sole of the boot here. And we're really seeing a lot of action pick up around this grouping here. And we're in these last 10 minutes or so, it's going to really be the spicier time.
Absolutely, and they've got Jack Stevenson catching behind, but he's a lap down, so hopefully he plays it smart as they break deep into turn 9. And Steve, goes too deep. He's off into the grass. Did he actually hit the wall, or did he stay off of it, DJ? Because that was close, but I think he was clean.
I think he was too. I think he was able to just escape, and if he did brush the wall, he was able to get the car wound up and hit it at such an angle that it's not going to affect that car too much. We jump back here, though, to the battle for the podium positions. Mike Sachs, Mark Lacombe, and Chad Dick might as well have magnets in those cars because they cannot keep away from each other.
Despite a weirdly slow pit stop, Chad Dick is making up for it, and he's once again caught up as they again go by the lapped car of Hemmig, staying off to the right-hand side. Dick showing his nose, but deciding not to try and attack here in the heel. Wonder if we're starting to see him learn the ropes here as he continues to poke and prod, making a little bit smarter moves as he tries an early apex, Rachel. That one does not work. Lacombe just chops him on the exit.
Yeah, he does, and nowhere to really go there, unfortunately. So he'll have to try and reel back in and try another way, as this grouping has really become super tight on the racetrack. Sax, Lacombe, and Dick are really, really all over each other. You said like magnets, yeah, with the positive and negative poles facing, they're just stuck to each other. It's absolutely crazy. I love seeing a fight this strong for podium positions, and one of these guys, unfortunately, despite being the best race we've got on track, will unfortunately miss out.
Through the S's, this is a good one for Chad Dick. He gets another slipstream as we ride on board with him. For some reason, just not gaining on Lacombe, which kind of surprises me. Would have thought that he'd be right on top of him with how much pull that he should be getting. And as he looks down to the inside, whoa, and into the side of his rival. Both Lacombe and Sax are into the tires, and just like that, Chad Dick finds a present in his lap, and the 930 is in P2.
And I've got to say there, Joe, I think that was a little bit of an over-eager move from Mark Lacombe. Just dove it down into the corner. That door was always going to close.
Wow, and Sax is able to get himself rolling before anybody else is able to get there. Lacombe, unfortunately, looks like he's had a second incident. As we watch the replay, I think Lacombe was damaged from that because he spun immediately as he came around. So I think Lacombe might be done for this one. And wow, okay, so it's 17 seconds from first to second because of that. Sax somehow still on the podium. Lervold way behind, about 14 seconds behind. If he didn't have that gap, I think Sax might have actually lost that third place, Rachel, but he can thank his lucky stars for now.
Yeah, I think he can. That got real close, real fast, and wow, this is what happens in racing. You know, things will happen you don't expect, and guys can run so well together for so long, and then we talk about them on the broadcast, and the curse happens, and they have contact, and they always blame us.
We're easy punching bags. What can I say? As we look at Lashway now, and Lacombe behind him, he's still rolling, but the car looks to be wounded. Oh, and we're back to Sari. Wonder if Sari can catch up to Lacombe, depending on what kind of pace he can run for the last 5 minutes of this race. It's Rennie leading this trio with Komats just in front of him. Sari unable to make anything stick quite yet. The black 210 kind of sandwiched in the middle, DJ, as we come to complete lap number 19. And for some reason, Lashway's in the pits. And Lacombe, we know why he's in the pits, but not sure about Lashway.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either, Joe, but I do want to give some good credit here to Steve Komats. He has been able to really catch up on the back of Graham Rene. A really, really good run there for him. Chris Sari locking up again, going down into turn one. He is just driving the absolute wheels off of that 27 machine.
Coming out of the S's and onto the back stretch. Komats is far enough away, he doesn't have to worry about anything. Instead, the lapped car continues to hold behind. Stevenson thinking about probably wanting to at least get past them if he's quicker. As they go through the outer loop, Komats to the inside, Rennie to the outside. It's one thing, whoop, as he peeks to the inside once again down through the chute. That's one thing I love about the banked corners around here, Rachel. It seems to open up the number of lines just tremendously.
Yeah, it really does. Watkins Glen, it's actually a bit of a deceitful track because it tells you it's got lots of opportunities to pass. It tells you the banking is going to make you quicker and you've got these amazing runs. But in reality, we have really three spots to pass in. One is into the bus stop. One is really into the kind of the arch of the boot. And the other one is really coming out of the boot / last couple of corners or turn 1 to 4. It tells you there's a lot, but it's such a fast track that everyone ends up finding speed.
They come through the penultimate turn now. Rennie up to 6th spot, 14 positions gained. Graham is basically sitting pretty here with a bit of pressure, mind you, but has been soaking it up as behind them. Was that Sorry? That was Sorry.
Yes, it was, Joe. Chris Sorry just goosed it, I think, coming out of that final corner. Heavy damage to the front of that Porsche, and it looks like it is crabbing there a little bit. We ride on board with the 27. This is going to be right here. Let's wait and see exactly. Did he touch the grass? No, just caught a little bit of that exit curbing. Ran the car a little bit wide, too much speed, and
For Chris, unfortunately, it's too late to apologize for the damage, and he is going to have to deal with that to the end or send it into the pit lane. 2 minutes to go. I'd hate to be making a pit stop at this stage as we look at Komats and Rennie. And whoa, down to the inside. He loves that late braking move into there. He loves it so much he's going to make it into a pass. And somehow Steve Komats is into 6th. That was smooth, Rachel.
Absolutely, yeah. Really good move there. As Rennie actually losing a bit of speed there. The Canada West driver not quite able to keep the pace after that one. I think he's a little bit blown away too.
Wow, I was not expecting that. So Steve is up to 6th now. He's 10 positions up. There's a number of drivers that have just been phenomenal today, picking up positions, DJ, avoiding the incidents around them and other things. As did Lervold just miss a spot? Yeah, I think Kessel and Lervold are going to be side by side. In fact, they were making contact through the S's just now. They get away with it, DJ, but boy, that was dangerous.
it was indeed, almost banging doors on the exit of the 90. That is not the thing you want to see here in these Porsche Cup machines. Even though they are closed wheel, it is still very, very tight. And Randy Lervold looking like he's losing a little bit of time here to Scott Kessel.
Wow, the end of this race has heated up. Everybody has their nerves on edge, trying to grab positions, but our leader, who is coming through the penultimate corner, now takes the white flag. There's Barney waving it away, 21 seconds over his nearest rival. Thomas Briggs might be one of the newer ones here to the sim, but he is already looking like a seasoned veteran. So with
Love
30,
seeing that.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, go right ahead, sorry.
30 seconds left on the clock. We're going to hit 0 here soon in our first race of the series at Watkins Glen, and it's looking like a rout for the number 8 as he leaves some more of that lap traffic in the dust. I think Bruce Froby had a bit of a slip up as he lets another car by, and Jeff Lashaway takes 15th. So a few more positions changing around, but our podium, despite being so uncertain for much of the race, has really solidified. Briggs obviously been just having this one on lockdown since the beginning. Chad Dick back into second where he wanted to be since the start of this race and where he started it. And then somehow Mike Sachs back to third where he also started this race, DJ. But it certainly didn't stay that way for the majority of it.
No, it certainly didn't. A lot of fantastic dicing up and down through the field, Joe. Just everybody in this class bringing their absolute A game to this entire 40-minute affair. But the one who has had the most class, Thomas Briggs, who continues to lead by, as you said there, almost 24 seconds.
It might be the challenge class, and that's the lowest on the totem pole here in the series races, but it's been phenomenal racing, and we've got some future stars, including Thomas Briggs with a win here in the opening race of the series. Chad Dick already still coming back onto the main circuit here, Rachel. He's that far behind.
Yeah, he really is. Fantastic run by him, as just unbelievably quick. Really had the pace here today. 22 seconds is crazy.
So despite losing the lead, he kept it on the island, and losing second, he kept it on the island. He's going to finish there as Mike Sachs behind him in the 599 is going to wind up in third. And then it's another big gap down to the rest of the field. We actually only have 9 of them on the lead lap. This is Lervold competing for fifth. Competing for fourth, really. Kessel, remember I mentioned, passed him not that long ago. But as they swing out of the final turn, Kessel is clear. He's up one from where he started, despite spinning on the very first lap. What about Graham Rennie? DJ, it looks like we might have a challenge, including some lap traffic catching him out.
He's going to try to swing it here through the penultimate corner. That's very, very tricky. That's just a lift in these cars. You can't take it fully flat out, but now he's got one more shot coming around the final corner here. That's a brush-breaking corner. Looks like Rennie's not going to be able to get it done, and Komatz is going to hold it out by just over a tenth of a second.
Whew, that was tight. Reber in the 147 will be our last one to cross, which means let's go to our finishing order. Thomas Briggs, as we mentioned, was our winner here today, and by a significant margin, with Chad Dick following him home in the 930. Mike Sachs finished P3 as Scott Kessel was just off the podium. He was there when he spun, and you got to think that if he hadn't have done that, he probably could have had that podium position with all the other issues that erupted on this track. Randy Lervold was P5 as Steve Komatz was 6. Graham Rennie, 20th to 7th. That was phenomenal stuff. Stephen Linz was 8th. And Jonathan Reber is 9th, last on the lead lap, with Jason Sherwood finishing in 10th.
Chris Sari was up 16 positions to come home in P11, followed by John Gibson, with Mark Lacombe dropping back to 13th and Robert Benson coming home 14th. Jeff Lajoie was 15th, followed by James Hemmick, with Stacy Iwata, Stefan Uritka in 17th, or in 18th rather, Olin Murphy 19th, and Jack Stevenson rounding out your top 20.
21st tonight is going to be Bruce Riobi with 22nd, Johan Nye, Freddie Lopez 23rd there with Andrew McHugh in 24th, Michael Adams in 25th with Chad Keon in 26th, and David Purdy in 27th.
So there's your fields in the finishing order here today. And before we get to our interviews, a quick mention, don't forget to check out the PCA Sim Racing social media. They offer up in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. I believe we're going to be chatting with Thomas Briggs in a moment. Would certainly love to hear his thoughts on that race, and if that seemed easy to him like it looked like from our perspective, because it certainly looked like he had that one on lockdown pretty much the entire way. And Thomas, we're watching your starts here, as that may be the only thing that wasn't at 100% for you, as you got challenged briefly, but after that, it was like nobody could touch you. Thomas, do you have a copy? We might have to try and see if we can get Thomas properly mic'd up here in a second. Is having a couple issues, but the number 8-volt machine, as we mentioned, just basically puts distance between himself and the rest of the field from the word go and never looked back. Let's take one more shot at Thomas. Thomas, do you have a copy? Looks like we might not get to talk to him for the time being. We'll see if we can bring him in a little bit later. In the meantime, DJ has caught up with Chad Dick, our second place finisher.
I have indeed, Chad. You started second, you came home second, but that doesn't exactly tell the tale of the tape out there.
No, today was an exercise in patience. I didn't expect to win the race on the first lap. Have spent many times behind people up through the S's and just following people. And I think what I learned in practice is, playing it a little conservatively for the first half of the race, save some fuel and tires, will pay dividends down the road.
Well, I noticed that. It looked like you were backing up the braking zones there a little bit to see in the early stages of the race. Was that just really all going according to strategy and not wanting to get yourself into a dangerous position?
Yeah, it was a combination of things. I was obviously preserving the car for the distance, but also the two guys in front of me had a great race going. So I did sit in the popcorn seat a little bit and enjoy the duel, thinking maybe something might happen there. And then I did start to notice Mark's back tires were going a little bit. So I also kept some distance, just anticipating that something unfortunate might happen, which, unfortunately it did on that carousel turn. So thankfully I was able to avoid getting sucked up into it, and just kind of continued on trying to hit my lines in corners.
Well, talk me through your emotions when you did see the two of them get together, Sachs and Lacombe. I mean, talk me through what was kind of going through your head when you saw that move happen and all of that breakdown in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, I was playing a car length behind, so I was giving myself a little bit of room, braking a little bit early, making sure I got the inside line on that. And then as soon as I saw his tires start to smoke, I just kept it tight on the inside and just kind of prayed that somebody didn't spin or bounce off the wall and come back out and get me. I mean, honestly, it's unfortunate because those guys were having a great race, and I've raced a lot with them, and they're fun to drive around with. I was thinking it might be more of a racing incident that forces a mistake, kind of a situation in front of me, rather than tires giving out.
Well, it clearly worked out for you, Chad. But anybody you would like to thank for this second place run today?
Yeah, I mean, two people in particular. There's tons, as always, lots of practice and work with the zone groups. And so lots of people taught me lots of stuff about this track. But in particular, Chris Braun, who was my spotter tonight, just did a masterclass job keeping me calm. And Nikki Chan spent a considerable amount of time on the phone with me the other day, helping me learn kind of situational awareness beyond what I'm doing on the track. So not just what's happening in front of me, but also what's happening behind me. And I think, having that bigger picture helped me kind of keep each lap in context. You don't win the race on any given turn or every given lap. So it really, really helped me kind of keep calm and keep patience today. And I really appreciated those guys' help.
Well, indeed, it's good to hear, Chad. Thank you so much. That was Chad Dick, your second place finisher here today. Joe?
Looks like we might have things sorted with Thomas Briggs. Let's pull him in. Thomas, this is Joe Peak with the broadcast team. Do you have a copy?
Yep, a copy.
Awesome stuff. I was saying earlier, it seemed like the only blemish on this entire race is a slightly slow start. Is that how you would call it? Did it feel pretty perfect up at the front?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too cocky, but I think I did a pretty good job of making mistakes at the beginning. I couldn't give the second place guy too easy of a time, so I had to squeeze him a bit. But yeah, it was good fun.
And we have heard that you haven't had a lot of experience here on the sim. What do you feel like is giving you this big of a jump over the rest of the field? I mean, you finished the first race at 24.5 seconds beyond anyone. That's a pretty massive gap.
I skill. I don't know. No, I'm joking. I had a Red Bull before this, so maybe that could have done it.
It gave you a bit of sim wings, I suppose. Is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to or thank you to that helped make this victory possible today?
Oh, absolutely. I want to thank my parents. Without them, I couldn't be here right now. And my girlfriend Marie, I know she's watching, and I just want to thank them. I couldn't do this without them.
Great stuff there from Thomas Briggs, who was our winner today. And then finally, we've got third place Mike Sachs ready to talk to Rachel.
Well, he came home third, but it was a Sachs solo and the show overall, because whilst it was a three-way race for most of this thing, Mike, it seemed to even out at the end when your competition just disappeared.
Yeah, he was very quick tonight. I've never seen him race before, but he really had some good pace tonight.
Yeah, it certainly seemed that way, of course. And just what was it like trying to battle with those guys tonight? Of course, Lacombe and Dick, both fantastic drivers. Was it tough?
Well, Chad and I have raced together before, so we kind of know each other fairly well. Mark and I have raced in the past. There was an incident last season where I obviously unintentionally bumped into him and took him out of contention, as well as myself. And I know he's a better driver than that. Unfortunately, circumstances got the better of the situation, and that's racing.
It certainly is. Well, thanks for joining us. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank, first of all, I'd like to thank my girlfriend, because she's been very patient with me as it comes to practice and racing. I'd like to shout out to my parents down in Florida, who are hosting a party down there to watch my events, because, they're down there and I'm up here. So I'm sure my parents are out there cheering and popping the champagne. My kids have been very patient, so thank you to them. and PCA and all of my teammates, everybody from Zone 1 who have helped us get to where we are today. I think it's just terrific what the PCA has done. All of our sponsors who contribute to our, the events. It wouldn't be possible without all of these people, and it makes it a lot of fun. It makes it a very safe and enjoyable hobby.
Couldn't agree more. Well, is it Sackestein or is it Sachs? Which do you want
It's
to call, just to call
Saxtein,
you?
but I go by Mike Sachs only because it's easier for people to pronounce.
Well, Mike Sackstein coming home today with 3rd place. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And as Michael takes off, we are not going to take off yet, though we have a short break in front of us. Stick around here on Podium Esports as the PCA Sim Racing Series 8 takes us to the sport class back here at Watkins Glen in just a moment's time. Welcome back to Watkins Glen. We're getting ready to watch the sport class here in the PCA Sim Racing Series 8. And our grid has been set. It is Jake Geiger who is on the pole. Kim Fricke is starting to his outside. Carl Boccieri, P3. James Franznick, who has been very fast in the Zone Group Challenge, starts from 4th today. Enrico Gregorato starts P5. You've got Anthony Solero in 6th, followed by Dave Kaufman in 7th. Patrick Adamczyk, P8. And row 5 has Robert Walton in 9th and Joseph Evers in 10th. DJ?
Starting off in 11th, it'll be Sebastiano Balcieri with Chris Pippen to his outside. Nick Melograno will be in 13th, followed by Doug Vandenbrink with Adam Spence and Randy Teague behind them. Peter Yurza will be in 17th, followed by Will Kelly with Jeff Williams and Gregory Sampson.
In the 19th place, we have a lot of drivers here. So 20th today, we have Gregory Sampson, we have David Kurtzler in 21st, David Palmer in 22nd, Anke Bergesson in 23rd, Evan Bablia in 24th, Val Asiano in 25th, Henry Rogers 26th, Bob Moore 27th, and James Lejeau 28th, Peter Kuma in 29th, and Christopher Cook in 30th.
After that, the 907 of Will Mungia in 31st place, James Bernard in 32nd. Adam Holland starts P33, followed by Ward Preston in 34th. Greg Smith is 35th, and Andrew Hillman in the 36th spot. From there, you've got Kevin Schultz, P37, Ryan McGee, P38. Last two to set a time was Tom Crane, 39th, Trip Starkey in 40th. Federico Del Toro starts 42nd, and Neokli in the number 18 machine is last on the field of 41 cars. It is going to be a big one out there, and we're waiting for them to finish lining up, as we just about have all of them on the grid, but we've got a few moments. And after what we watched before, DJ, what do we expect with this group? Do you think we've learned anything from that first one?
I think we certainly have, Joe. I think you're going to see some drivers try to be a little bit more aggressive here, as passing proved to be at a little bit of a premium, kind of like Rachel was saying, around this circuit. I think you're going to see some more aggressive lines going into the inner loop and down through the boot. That's going to be the primary overtaking opportunities. And I don't anticipate nearly as much side-by-side going down through the 90, as that never seems to work out for a lot of these drivers.
And we're holding just a moment, as we do need to get some stuff sorted out on the grid. Then we will be ready to go here for the race. Looking forward to it just as much as the drivers. As we mentioned, the challenge are the lowest on the tiers, and now we start to up the ante. The skill level gets a little bit higher, Rachel. The drivers will get a little bit more intense with their moves, with their defense, and this is where I like to see who's got that zest behind them.
Oh, absolutely, and I can't wait to see what these guys will do. It is a huge field, so this, from a standing start, could get really spicy in turn one. Let's hope it doesn't, but one person makes a mistake, that's a 20-car pileup.
Yeah, typically turn one here at Watkins Glen does see some action, not always in the best way. So let's hope that everybody keeps their heads up and uses that paved runoff if they need to try and avoid an incident. Just a few seconds left, and then we are ready to go here for the first event of the series at Watkins Glen. We've got a fun calendar up ahead of us, including some newer tracks and some older ones. And they've got Winton, one of the new Australian tracks, coming up a little bit later. And then they have Summit Point in there, one of the first tracks on iRacing, also one of the smallest and shortest road tracks on the service. So that should be interesting if we get a grid this big for that. And we have about a minute till green, we're hearing. So just about ready. And then the drivers will be unleashed for 40 minutes. As we saw, pit stops are included in this. So they do have to take into account their fuel strategy for this race, not expecting tires to have to be taken here today. It is just about what you run on the tank. And about 15 seconds to go before we get going now, as there you see them on the grid, ready to plunge down into the first turn. Will we get a clean start as the engines will now start to rev for the first race of Series 8 for our sport class. Jake Geiger on the pole. And here we go. Now we've got the engines up and the green flag is out. Geiger is off, but it looks like, oh, it's a horrible start in a spin as multiple cars up at the front start to wreck. Oh, and unfortunately, it's almost a blocked track. There's more of them piling in. Very few have been able to get through clean, but we are going to get a caution from that, as that was too messy of a start for their liking. They're going to bring them back around for a rolling start from here. A lot of drivers, Rachel, are going to have to get into their spare cars very quickly now.
Well, that escalated quickly.
And escalated all the way up from second place. Kim Fricke did not get off the line. Huge wheel spin. Tried to, I don't know if it was cover or getting the car under control to the inside, but Franznik ran into the side of him. And then unfortunately that sent them both across the track as Solero made a little bit of a hit. And from there, well, I mean, take your pick. I'm trying to see who else squeaked through there. And I think one of the last ones to get through completely clean before they had to really check up was David Kaufman in the 808. That might actually be a bit of an interesting perspective to see the initial incident erupt if we want to replay on that one.
Well, Joe, this is a common thing that can happen with standing starts, especially with a car like this with no traction control. It means that you've got to manage your car's wheel spin. You've got to manage that throttle. And if you don't, the car can turn sideways at the start, which means that the room just doesn't exist anymore. One person hits somebody else, but a 40-car grid, yeah, this was going to happen, especially when there's nowhere to go. There's no runoff on this straight.
There you saw the 808 managing to just ease by. He's got to be thanking his lucky stars on that one as we see the yellow come out relatively quickly there. The stewards on that one when they saw that happen. It's a good thing they do have the spare cars, DJ. We've mentioned that a couple times. For those that don't quite understand what we're talking about, explain the concept of a free repair in iRacing.
So basically, Joe, it operates like a spare car. Like the driver is able to hop out of their damaged vehicle out on track, run back into pit lane, and get that spare car and get in and come right back out like nothing has happened. It's a little bit like Formula One back in the day with the shades of Martin Brundle running back from that terrible incident in Australia, running back to the garage and immediately getting into the T car. It's sort of like that is the best way to think about it.
Indeed, and they've already caught up to the pace car, but it looks like Solero, Adamczyk, Walton, Evers, Vandenbrink, they're all a lap down already because they had to take tows. Oh, and they've had a crash here through the S's. Somebody must not have gotten the word that there was a checkup. And, and another one's going to go sailing. That's Bernard, who unfortunately was pulling back across, and those behind him not expecting a car. That was Hillman that ran into him. Little bit messy here at the start.
That's an achievement, actually. I believe they just unlocked one.
Yeah, unfortunately went to the moon there for a moment. And that was an automatic tow when you get out of the iRacing bounds like that. So he has definitely been sent on to pit lane and might not get back out in time to join the tail of the field. Trying to see who all is still on the lead lap. And I think it looks like about 33 or 34 of them will be able to retake the restart with the pace car unless they decide to wave some of them around and extend this caution. But sometimes these things happen, DJ. It's just the nature of racing. We did mention this track gets narrow, especially the barriers in places don't give much place for escape.
No, it really doesn't, Joe. The Armco here, that distinctive blue Armco, very, very close on the outside of the pit straightaway. It's very, very tight and confining, and it's just one of those unfortunate incidents that can happen here when you're running like that. Rachel pointed out the lack of traction control, easy to spin up the tires. Everybody's nerves a little bit ramped up as they get going, and it can just happen and catch all of these drivers out. Very, very unfortunate to see, though.
So there's a little bit of conversation with race control, trying to explain. Not everybody is always familiar with how cautions work here on the roadside of iRacing, Rachel. It's kind of an uncommon occurrence. Not many series really have them, and if they do, it's like this, where it's once in a blue moon that the stars kind of align.
Actually, no, cautions are very common on the roadside. They're just local cautions. It means be aware in the sector that an incident has happened. The race typically doesn't stop until, well, things go bananas like this one. And, yeah, it can be a thing that happens. It won't happen in official series, of course. It's usually something only ever seen in manual road races. But when it does, it definitely changes strategy a lot because it's free tire time.
That's a good point. Although they haven't had hadn't had enough racing, really, I think, on these tires to try and get them in. Although I do wonder, what do we saw? The latest we saw was about 15 minutes in, I think. DJ, is that what we had last time as far as the edge of the pit window?
I think it was about 15 to 13 minutes was the very, very edge of it.
Yeah, I think so. So maybe not pitting on this one. Though I do wonder if we could see some maybe NASCAR-style shenanigans here, Rachel. We could see drivers at the tail of the field pit in, get top up on fuel, and see if it shortens their pit stop when we come back around.
Nah,
well, no, but
it'll
shorten their second stop, though.
Not enough, I don't think. Not for it to make enough of a difference. I don't think we'll really see that happen, personally. It's not a trend you tend to see on the roadside.
Not usually, but if you're at the back of the field, I mean, you have nothing to lose. I'm looking at guys like David Palmer, Will Mungia, Peter Kummer, as they've got another check up at the top of the S's. I think they avoided a massive pack up this time and didn't run into each other. So they're going to be able to carry on without losing yet more drivers. And yeah, I am seeing a few that look like they had very short stops. Christopher Cook was in there for 3.6, Smith 2.7. Yeah, I think we got some guys that are trying to be a little tricky here, DJ.
Yeah, I think so too. And Joe, we may even see it fire off here on this lap as the pace car lights are still on. And so that means we're going to have at least one more lap of caution here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of those drivers that are back in the field just to shorten up that pit stop cycle by a second, maybe 2 seconds. That's all you need. If you're able to do that and gain a couple of positions out on track, that is going to be enough, and that's going to make it worth it.
Yeah, here they are going up the toe of the boot and on the run across the sole into the heel. Some of the drivers who have taken advantage of the problems here early on and survived it. I'm looking at Ryan McGee up 25 positions, Trip Starkey up 26, up 19 for Kevin Schultz. So keeping your nose clean certainly pays dividends. This is Bob Moore in 7th. Holy cow, 20 positions up for the 772, Rachel, and I'm even seeing Ward Preston up 25 as well, behind him in 9th.
Yeah, it turns out if you don't bin it in turn 1, then you can actually progress in a race. It's a fantastic functionality of motor racing, but you have to be lucky in that sort of situation. I think guys at the back really had the ability to just not go when that whole thing started, because you'll see that happening pretty early. So I think they had opportunity to know it was coming and to stop, which has been an advantage. But this will make this race a lot quicker because we're going to have, well, a lot racier, I should say, because now we'll have guys who are maybe slower ahead of faster guys. So we'll have either more crashes or more exciting racing. I'm hoping for the latter.
I am too. As let's see, are the lights off now? I took my eyes off the pace car. Yes, lights are off, which means we are going green next time by. But it will be a single file restart. So they're not going to double up, even though they did have double file starts at rolling starts in previous series. This is effectively going to work as it would like an IndyCar restart. DJ?
Yeah, indeed. And that's really done here to make sure we're able to get through and get a nice clean start to the race. You want to make sure that we don't have another big pile up like this. And I think you're going to see a little bit of restraint here from these drivers, specifically in the mid-pack. I wouldn't anticipate a lot of passing going down into the 90 on this restart, as a lot of drivers, I think, are just going to want to get through these first couple of corners cleanly.
So as they hit the backstretch, we're already just about 30 minutes to go. They might actually restart with what, about 28, 27 minutes. I don't think anybody can get to the end from there. And you'll lose a lot more time if you pit just as it's coming back from green. So I don't think we'll see anybody necessarily try that, but certainly makes things interesting here because this has been a lot of laps pacing slowly at about 60 miles an hour, it looks like, behind the pace car here, Rachel. So this changes the complexion of a lot of the strategy, I have to think.
Absolutely, because you can race harder now. These tires don't have to go 40 minutes, they have to go 30 minutes. Because they won't be that warm, so they'll actually be very fresh. Meaning you have now a quarter of the race, you don't have to run it with those tires, so you can go harder.
Well, hopefully that will give us a lot of fun action in the remaining 3/4 of this race. Trying to see how many exactly we've lost. I do see Andrew Hillman and James Menard still in pit lane, but everybody else looks to have managed to get back out on track, although Greg Arado in the 7 seems to have had some connection issues, so he may have DNF'd for alternate reasons compared to most other drivers having a bad day. And you can see some damage. I saw a flash of somebody there out of the tow, DJ, who is sporting a bit of a bent rear bumper.
Yeah, exactly. Some of these drivers that weren't massively involved in that opening lap shunt, they may opt to stay out on track. And the big thing here is they're not going to know what their damage is going to be like. They haven't driven these cars in anger, so they're not going to have a full understanding of exactly how this car is going to handle up to speed.
All right, Geiger now has 2 corners to go. Started this thing on the pole, and he'll be able to restart it on the pole, but this time it's not going to be Fricky next to him. Boccieri behind him instead in the 80, up 1 position, so he technically did start behind him at the very beginning of this race. Let's see if he can pull something off here on the restart. Pace car pulls in. Jake is waiting for the green. And there it is. Green flag is out. It's a very good start back there for, looks like Chris Pippen, I think, in the 042, making up a position even before the start-finish line. Little bit of too wide, down into the 90s. Somebody locking up in the background there. I think that was Krutzler for a moment, but thankfully, Rachel, we get through turn 1 clean.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to have a crash after a single file restart. It's kind of the baby reigns restart in all of our racing's options. It's the safest of all of them, and we get a good clean start out of it. Everyone's coming up onto the back straight here, getting a good run now. We'll start to see the cars really start to go for this. The tow here will be huge. We'll start to see passing beginning, and they're already looking at it as they begin to get too wide here, coming towards this big turn. No bus stop here. Ooh, tire lock up there in the background. No bus stop means this will be a much faster entry into that chicane. In fact,
I heard the tires squealing. I thought, oh no, we've got another wreck here at the start, and thankfully no such thing. Oh, we do. It looks like that is Henry Rogers in the 40 down on the inside of the chute. He's trying to get it going. Oh no, and he's going to spin across just as there is a 3 wide. All 3 cars get a piece of it. 2 of them are off the course. That's Legault. And I'm trying to pick up who that other one is. Looks like, DJ, that's Asensio. So she, in the 25, has unfortunately found that race ended prematurely.
Indeed, she has. So a tough break there for Val. We check out Chris Pippen, though, as we continue to ride our way around here. It looks like we're hearing they're just locked up and had a little bit of an off. That's what caused that incident earlier.
And it looks like Fricky and Franznik are going to get a black flag for that start crash at the very beginning. Here's Pippen just sending it off at the heel of the boot with a pretty big thunk into the Armco. Ahead of it all, Geiger is pulling away, and he's up by about 1.5 seconds over Boccieri. Right now is going very wide. This is Holland. That's in the 144, gets back onto the track just as Krutzler now has some speed to try and attack on him. But it looks like he's fast enough that he's not going to be overtaken. Oh, and somebody's in the wall ahead of him, spinning back across the track. That was Mularongo, and just clipped 1 car. Didn't quite make out who that is. I think that is Starkey.
I think you might be right there. That's an unfortunate turn of events. We've definitely had, I think, more attrition in this race than we've seen possibly in the entirety of last season for these guys. This is not what we expect from the sport, guys. They're very fast, they're very, very friendly normally, and I think this is the car and the track combination. It's an unfamiliar version of Watkins Glen with a new car, so it's definitely making things a little trickier for everybody, and it's going to be a learning process, I think.
I have to watch how I frame these races from now on. I said it was going to get more aggressive. I said that we'd see some riskier stuff happen. And unfortunately, it looks like there are many who have paid the price here today early on and are being parked early. Is way off to the outside of the heel of the boot. That was Chris Pippen once again. Another black flag for Henry Rogers for an unsafe rejoin there. So he is going to be sent down pit lane. Pippen trying to chase on Gregory Sampson in that number 91. This is for 6th position.
Indeed, Joe, and this is just a big battle really shaping up everywhere. Chris Pippen, you saw him run very, very wide there at the heel. That's not going to be an off track. Big off in front of him. I'm not sure who that is. I think that's David Kaufman.
Oh, he goes all the way from 3rd place down to 7th, unfortunately, which is where he started this race. So that work has been undone. Let's take a look at the replay. And no help on it. He just lost it on his own.
Yeah, it seems that way indeed. Unfortunate timing for him to really get into that one, as we're seeing some good action here. Balistieri there for 3rd place. At 5-1-6 between dogfighting here through the carousel. The guys around him, Moore and Samuelson behind him there. Getting some good action here, 2 by 2 almost, as we come down, diving into the boot.
Kaufman spinning means that this is now a battle for the podium. Moore fending off Balistieri, Sampson, Pippen, all in a row. Didn't think that Pippen would be back into it this quickly. Started from 12th as well, so he is up a ton. And Bob Moore started 27th. He sits in 3rd. He's going to have to play heavy defense in that 7-7-2, DJ.
Yeah, he is indeed. And one thing to note here is these top 3 cars, Moore, Balistieri, and Sampson, and I believe Pippen as well, all have a little bit of damage on them. So it's sort of to be determined how well the cars are performing in that sense. They're going to have to keep an eye out here, especially as the tires start to go off a little bit more, if these cars are going to be more and more of a handful for them.
Seb showing a little damage on the nose, so that's looking like that might hamper him in a straight line. We'll see if that red and silver car is able to gain here in a second, because they're coming up to turn 1 through the 90, and he ducks down to the apex a little bit better, but not off the corner better. Bob Moore pulls away, and now Sampson is closing up on the tail of the 516, Rachel. Let's see if he tries an attack into the outer loop.
It'd be a good opportunity to go for something there, but you've really got to have the right setup before that opportunity comes to you to make that thing happen, as he's going to go around the outside here. Outside can be tricky, but if you get the overhead lap, you can make it stick. It's just a lot further around. Inside line much, much shallower, as you'll see there. Just going to run out a lot wider. The line not quite as forgiving, but he'll hold that line. We should, if he has that position, keep him on the inside now, diving into the boot.
Balistieri's almost got this done. Can throw away my notes. I thought that damage on the nose would make it hard to pass and lack straight line speed, but that is certainly not the case. Bob Moore demoted down to 4th position. Behind them, that exit from Sampson as well, as we ride on board with him. But it looks like Pippen slips off into the grass briefly. That denies Chris the chance to try and attack into the heel of the boot, but don't look now. That is Kaufman behind them catching back up, DJ.
You read my mind there, Joe. David doing a good job. And remember, he's out of position courtesy of that little off he had going into turn 1. So he's got some more speed, I think, in that machine. He started off 7th, and all of these drivers up ahead of him, they are massively out of position. So I think the 808 is in for a real treat of overtaking here in these final 20 minutes.
Coming around the final corner and onto the main straight. They're separating slightly at the front. We got another penalty, this one for Jeff Williams for an incident. Little poke to the inside there from Pippen, and then breaks early as he's setting himself up for the exit. Looks to be the case despite Kaufman getting close. He just clears away from him by the time he gets on the throttle. Now they pick up speed, Rachel, 145 already before they hit the top of the hill.
Yeah, great choice. Yeah, English. I can speak the language, I promise. Great place to go for it, really. Really one of those good opportunities. Huge speed you can have that section that just really propels the car forward. And it gives you this massive run into the following section here. And these guys, as we see Kaufman there, without the bus stop, this is a really, really fast entry into the carousel there. So if you're off that inside line, the banking really pushes you to the outside there. And it becomes almost like a dogfight. You're just weaving and swerving and curving here. It's such a fast layout.
And he got close, but Pippin not able to attack on Sampson. Instead, Sampson now looking at Moore. And as Moore comes off of the toe of the boot, it looked like he was going to swing a little wide there, but he keeps it tucked in nicely. And Sebastiano Balistieri is now starting to gap himself. He took very little time, DJ, to try and overtake on Bob Moore, and is wasting no time and putting a buffer zone between them.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good call here for Sebastiano. Just try to pull ahead as much as possible. Get yourself out of any of this battling going on behind as we now ride on board with Carl Baccieri. Remember, Baccieri did this same kind of run last season out in Canada. Was able to pick up, I believe, a win courtesy of some attrition of the cars up in front of him, and doing a really great job here.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I believe it was a victory, and Carl himself seemed a little bit surprised at that, but sometimes you got to be there for it, and that's exactly what he's done as we once again glance at this battle between Moore and Sampson. Is he going to be able to use that strength to overtake, or is his hair going to get chopped off today as the 772 holds to the right side to defend? Sampson uses that slipstream, ducks out to the left-hand side, tries to see if he can outbrake him once they get to the binders here at the outer loop, but he's not as deep, and it looks like Moore retains that spot for the time being, Rachel.
Yeah, one of those really difficult places to do that sort of move, and like I mentioned earlier, it's just the momentum carried by both sides and the way the track wants to basically make your car move. Oh, round goes, contact maybe!
Sampson making contact, unfortunately. Oh, and more contact. And that was Kaufman, unfortunately, who was trying to come back onto the track just as, I think that was Ward Preston and others trying to go through. It looks like it was Adam Holland who got the worst of it. He got hit big time. Peter Yurtsa is getting defended upon, and somehow Sampson holds him back. I wouldn't be surprised if the 91 suddenly gets himself a penalty. This has been a bit shady here, DJ.
Yeah, exactly. This is getting a little bit elbows out aggressive and not in a good way. Drivers are very, very defensive of their positions, specifically Sampson there. That was a little bit of a moving in reaction to Yursa's move, and I don't think race control is going to look favorably upon that.
Certainly not. He's likely going to get a penalty for the incident. He spun, and that caused the accident. So they've already told the drivers that when that happens, they're going to get a penalty for the loss of control, because they want everybody to be nice and clean out there. They want to encourage good racing, and people spinning off and taking others out does not do that. As we head up the hill in the Red Bull now, and it looks like we might have an attack on Yurtsa as Solero is catching up to him. He's got the slipstream, but the 38 is going to run out of track before they get to the braking of the outer loop. Still a very shallow line here, Rachel, from Peter, and I'm not sure why. Didn't seem like Anthony was anywhere close to him.
No, quite a shallow line. Maybe a little preemptive, perhaps, I think, in this sort of position, but it's done the job he needed it to do, and he's still holding that position, but it can compromise his later speed.
Well, as they come down through the toe of the boot, we head back to Kaufman. He's back out on track after that incident in 18th place. I think that was his spare car he just used. Yeah, it looks like he popped in and then back out and is on his merry way, but he's still slow. Or did he use that just now? Oh, as he has to weave to the left-hand side to avoid Rogers, who's blasting through. That is a position in front of him. Adam Spence in the 13, currently holding down 17th spot, but man, that car is slow as Franznik easily blows by on Kaufman, DJ.
Yeah, very much able to get that move done like he was standing still, and it does look like there's still a little bit of damage there to a couple of those cars that he is riding around with. James Bransnick just doing a great job, though.
Well, still trying to get yet more positions in that bright pink 39 and easily outbraking Adam Spence as well. He is past Bob Moore, still in the 5th position. He's lost a few spots, but he's still up by 22. Kevin Schultz has him one better. Well, many better. He's up by 27. Looks like Theodosis Neokli in the 18 is up by 28 as well. This is some incredible gains today that some drivers are making. Moore trying to keep his cool. And Krutzler, the one behind, now starting to blink a little bit. Oh no! Bob Moore with a critical mistake. Not sure how hard the hit was, Rachel, but he definitely went into the tire barrier. He's back on the track now, though.
Yeah, seems to be okay for now, but we'll see over the lap pace what happens to him there. But, oh, this is shaking things up rather significantly. And a big change there, considering we had him running so strong.
So 14 minutes left on the clock, and we still need our scheduled pit stops, by the way.
Joe, something just happened to our leader. Something happened to Geiger.
Uh-oh. I'm trying to check real quick to see if this was a connection issue, and I think it was. Yeah, he just blips out of existence. Boccieri, for the second time, is he going to get a surprise win?
He very well might here, Joe, but he does have to watch out from behind him. Ballestieri has been able to run a little bit quicker on these past 3 laps. The gap is now down to 3.2 seconds, so Carl is not in smooth sailing territory quite yet.
Yeah, just those 3 measly seconds. Ballestieri with damage on the front still, by the way. I kind of wonder if the 516 is starting to lick his chops, thinking, I'm still fast. I could still catch this and steal this win away, Rachel.
Yeah, I think he is. It's definitely one of those things that could be an incredibly exciting thing to have happen for him. It's a really good situation to be in. It's tight still because we... Oh, contact! Right there on the screen as he goes round. And he's still going round.
Oh, no. I'm not sure if that was just a lack of awareness, but yeah, that was Bob Moore who moved off to the left. He was focused on Yurtsa, and he wasn't side by side. Watch this. Yeah, he wouldn't have gotten that call, DJ, until very late, so probably just wasn't looking in his mirrors.
No, I think that's about right, Joe. He would have just not had the spotter give him that indication. That's why it's so crucial to have absolute maximum spatial awareness coming around here. Just a very unfortunate incident there for Bob Moore.
We are actually down to what looks like only 10 cars that have not visited pit lane. And I'm not even sure how many of them have taken the scheduled stop at this stage. Some of them appear to have, because we're seeing about 12 and 11-second stops for a few of them. So we could have just missed that in all the craziness, Rachel. Frankly, I feel a bit like Clint Eastwood and all the excitement. I've lost track of everything.
Yeah, what day is it? Who are you? I don't know where I am. It's definitely been a bit of a topsy-turvy one tonight for this sport class race. But the issues there we saw for Geiger have left Carl Boccieri in the lead here today. And his gap is not significant. It's still 2.8 seconds over Ballestieri, which is very, very close. And Pippin, of course, 3rd place behind them. He's about 5 to 7 seconds back from that grouping. But something interesting about Carl Boccieri. I'm going to put this question to you two, because I'm pretty sure you won't know the answer. But Carl Boccieri says he is a perfusionist. Do you know what that is?
A perfusionist.
Mm-hmm.
Is he predicting the future?
No, he actually is a medical professional. He operates the machine that keeps your blood oxygenated whilst you're having a heart bypass, for example. Oh, yeah, the artificial blood oxygenation.
I just got...
very cool, yeah.
I just had my blood taken today, so...
Well,
not the same thing, but...
No, of course. I'm pretty sure yours still has oxygen in it, of course. But explain to why he's such a cool cucumber on the racetrack, because he's used to some stressful situations.
Indeed, having people's lives literally in his hands. So I'm sure sim racing seems like a cakewalk in that case. That explains why he's able to really pick up the pieces when everybody else falls apart here out on track. He still needs to take his pit stop, and we're 10 minutes left to go, but he's going to carry on this time by. I saw Dave Krutzler in and out for about 5 seconds. That might be the standard pit stop now, as Ballestieri is also pitting in. Remember, shorter stops this time because of all the pace laps that we had. So drivers will have just a literal splash and dash here, DJ, and then they're on their merry way.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really as a result of running under caution for about the 10 laps around here. You're able to save a whole bucket load of fuel as you do it, and so that's really going to change everything, I think. Yeah, Ballestieri and Bob Moore both in pit lane, Moore obviously serving that penalty as well.
And I see Jake Geiger having reconnected. Yes, he's back out on track, but he's a lap down, and he's in 34th. Oh, man. But how in control he was in this race, this has got to be gutting, but he's going to try and pick up everything he can from here. Meantime, on track, we're looking at some more battles. This is the race between Ankerberg Zona, James Legault, and Ward Preston. This is essentially for 11th, 12th, and 13th, Rachel.
Yeah, it really is. It's going to be huge to see what these guys can do. Of course, it's mid-pack, but it's an exciting part of the race, especially with these guys. Got some big names. Those guys never put on a boring race, of course. And we're expecting nothing similar now. Looking aboard there with Krutzner, looking now further past as we get into the dive. And Jordan's one of the bigger braking zones here. Krutzner goes up the inside there. Successful pass, I think, yeah.
Yep, this is, that was an overtake on a lapped car of Randy Teague, but Krutzler is trying to overtake on Ballestieri, and it looks like they have both taken their pit stops, but Sebastiano took a long one, way longer than what some of the other drivers have. I wonder if he did not calculate for the shorter fuel stop that's needed, and now Krutzler almost manages to get by, but doesn't send it up the inside into the heel of the boot. So what is this going to do for the battle for the lead, DJ? And we're going to have our answer because Boccieri is in.
Yes, he is indeed. I think that may give Carl a little bit of breathing room with that long of a stop from Ballestieri. The question is going to be is if Carl's been able to do the math correctly and be able to come in and come out in a quick amount of time. 3, 4, 5. It's a little bit of a long stop for Carl compared to what we've seen, but at 6.3 seconds, I think he'll be okay. He is already out and on his way.
Yeah, it's still much, much faster than Ballestieri. About a 6-second difference. He does come out in traffic, though. Adamczyk in front of him, almost in front of him. Yeah, good job, Patrick. He sees the blue flags. He's going to let the leader on by. Incredibly, Ballestieri's still in second, though. But that's not for sure. Krutzler, who we are on board with right now, Rachel, is breathing down his neck.
Yeah, really, really is. And this is the kind of pressure you want to put on somebody towards the stage of the race. We've got 7 minutes left in the bag, so now it's time to really remind them you are here. Hope they can make a mistake and you can get an opportunity to pass.
Didn't quite do it that time, though he took a little bit of a look through the outer loop. They've got about only 1.2 seconds down to Chris Pippin, who's still in the hunt. He could maybe sneak onto the podium. And from there on back is Peter Yurtza, who is currently 6th because we're waiting on Theodosis Neokli to pit in the number 18. So he still needs to make a stop. And other than that, things have pretty much settled in. We're watching from over the dash of Krutzler, a little bit of blink here and there. That's not going to be very joyful for Sebastiano to deal with at these final couple laps, and he's a little wide coming off of turn 9 once again. I wonder if he's starting to feel that pressure, DJ, if Krutzler's making him look a little too much in the mirrors.
He certainly could be, and that is exactly what I think David is trying to do. You see him taking some alternate lines through the corners, just trying to maximize the amount that blue, white, and red car can be in the rear view mirror there, and really just try to get into his head a little bit.
Down through the 90, falls back a little bit, quite a bit actually. It's 1.3 seconds. Ballestieri has responded, and he almost is clear of the draft now, but he's got to make up 6 seconds to get to Boccieri. And with only about 4 laps left, don't think that's going to be enough here. So the lead looks like it has maybe died down a little bit, or has it? Chris Pippen is gaining on Krutzler. What happened here? Does Krutzler have some sort of slowdown penalty or something? This is a bit baffling that he would lose so quickly here, Rachel.
Yeah, I'm going to try and find out what happened for you there, but Pippin did seem to drop quite a bit of time. Come back to me on that one.
Double checking. He did outbrake himself a little bit into the 90, but nothing really that seems like he should have lost 2 whole seconds now up to Sebastiano. Whatever the case, the damage is done, and now Chris Pippen has an even closer view of third place, approaching the back of the number 20. And ahead of it all, Boccieri's not out of the woods. He's got quite a bit of traffic he's been dealing with. Now everybody's been very polite. They know that they are not to try and hinder the leaders, even though they don't have to leap out of the way, DJ. But still, it can be something that slows you down significantly. And he's down to 4.3 seconds over Sebastiano already.
Yeah, he really is, Joe. He's got to be careful here. Make sure that he can just keep this car pointed the right way. I think with only about 4 minutes left, he should be able to hold this out. Looking at the previous lap times, the most he's been able to take out of it is about 1.4 seconds per lap for Balistieri. So this could get a little close at the end.
And in fact, I think Seb can just about see Carl up the road here, as we're going to watch from Krutzler, who did get overtaken by Pippen, but he's going to try and take it right back. Pippen holding the inside, coming down into the outer loop, and he's going to take it shallow into the corner. Krutzler under braking, cuts back, can't get underneath him, has to stay in line. Could have another shot coming down into the chase, into the chute rather, and nothing doing this time. Once again, a very shallow entry for Chris Pippen. Manages to retain P3 and just has to do so for about 2 more laps, I think, Rachel?
Yeah, I don't think you can quite carry the speed on the inside line into there if you're trying to attack. But in terms of defense, you can really hold it on the outside or even attacking on the outside because you do have that inside line for the follow-up corner. It's very much a sequence rather than a single individual corner, so you've got to basically think where you're going to be when you come out of that whole lot.
So I'm looking at the pit stop times between Boccieri, who you see here on screen, and Balistieri. They're actually just about, Chris Pippen rather. Chris Pippen had about the same stop time as Boccieri. So fuel, probably not an issue for Carl. Don't think he's going slow because of that. He crosses the line. 2.5 to go. Yes, this is 2 laps left. And that time by 46.80 picked up the pace a little bit. Seb, a 45.6, so still a full second faster, DJ. I get the feeling maybe Carl is just backing it up to try and bring it home, but he's got to be careful here.
Yeah, he certainly does if he continues to lose time like that, and maybe if Seb is able to get the benefit of some draft off the cars in front of him, this could have a completely different ending to this race than what we are expecting.
Well, it's certainly been a wild one, basically from the word go. It's given us some of the most unpredictable moments that we've seen here in the PCA Sim Racing Series. And Sebastiano Balistieri. Now let's watch. Let's see if we can see him up ahead. Yeah, just up the road. We get glances of him here on some of the longer straights. So he's got that visual now, Rachel. We've often talked about that psychological side here of racing. He can see his prey. That's got to be urging him on.
It really does. Once you're really in that visual range, it's almost like you get locked on, and you can suddenly drive so much faster. But finding the way past them, that becomes the next challenge, and it's not always as easy as it can appear. You've got to really find the opportunity to time it right.
It's down to 2.5 seconds. That's not impossible, even though this is going to be the white flag lap. Make that 2.7 as he's having trouble with lap traffic now, is Seb. There he is in the background there, coming through. You can see him having a hard time overtaking Trip Starkey as the white flag waves for Carl Boccieri, this time across the line of 46.5. A little bit faster, yet still 46.1 for Sebastiano. 0.4 quicker. He's got to make up 2.7 seconds if he wants the win.
This is going to be very, very tight, Joe. I think if Sebastiano was able to do this, he has got to give absolutely everything he's got into this lap.
Carl Boccieri flying down the back stretch, can taste his second win here. Will he be able to claim it? Looks like, oh, David Krutzler just stopped in the pits. He must have short fueled, so he couldn't get to the end. And the 20 is going to come back out, it looks like maybe in 7th or so. Down the hill towards the chute. Carl Boccieri, 1.6 seconds. This is getting unnervingly tight now, Rachel.
Yeah, super, super close here, and it's not going to be one that we'll see ended any other way than a very, very close call. But the gap is big enough that it is not going to be changing what we see here today. It's close, but it is no cigar.
Carl Boccieri, just a few more corners to go. Not many of them, if any, are passing opportunities in most situations. Maybe turn 9 sometimes, but he's well too far ahead, 1.4 seconds. Let's hope that this is going to be enough for Carl's sake, unless you're a Sebastiano fan. In case you are cheering him on from your couch right now, I don't think it's going to be enough, because Carl just has to take it through this last corner. He's approaching. It's down to 0.7 of a second. He's slow. He's out of fuel. He's out of fuel, but he bogs him down. But Sebastiano's able to get by, and he's going to take the win at the last corner.
Oh my goodness gracious, Joe. Fuel numbers coming into play with Sebastiano Ballesteri taking a miraculous final win here. Incredible.
And we had another change for position. Peter Yurtsa managed to overtake Chris Pippin as he got into a tangle with Theodosis Neokli, who did a no-stopper. I've not seen a time on the board for him. The 18 managed to go the entire race somehow, and that netted him 4th place. Some incredible goings on here. Some things we absolutely did not foresee as we're on board with Ankerberg Zona up 23 positions ahead of them. Adam Holland was up 33, Rachel, and Pippin is out of gas as well. No thanks to that incident, it seems, at the finish. And that is going to send him well down as he gets plowed into at the line as well. And we are incredibly still going to see a lot of cars finish on the lead lap all the way down to 22nd with David Kaufman. But this has been one of the weirdest races I have seen in some time. So unfortunately, with the change in the fuel strategy, it does look like it caught a lot of drivers out, but not Sebastiano Ballesteri. We criticized that long stop as we thought that was the wrong call. Turns out it was the right one, and the 516 takes a victory. Carl Boccieri still limps home in 2nd place, as Peter Yurtsa will be in 3rd. Then it's Theodosis Neokli in 4th, followed by Christopher Cook from 30th to 5th place. Adam Holland managed to go from 33rd to 6th. And, oh, no, we're getting some penalties here. Ward Preston is 6th now as all the cars have finished, so there must have been some drivers with some incident limit penalties. Ankerberg Zong gets promoted to 7th. Theodosis Neokli down to 8th position. And David Krutzler winds up in 9th. And DJ, it'll be Jeff Williams in 10th.
Indeed it will. Coming home in 11th, then it's James Fresnick, followed by David Palmer with Adam Spence and Craig Smith behind them. Tim Fricke was able to recover to 15th with Bob Moore only able to get 16th there. Tom Crane in 17th with Chris Pippin all the way down in 18th. Gregory Sampson in 19th and Greg Melanrongo in 20th.
21st is Andrew Hillman, with behind him David Kaufman in 22nd, James Legault 23rd, Trip Starkey with Joseph Evers, Robert Walton, Peter Kuma, Randy Teague, Kevin Schultz in 29th, and Evan Balbier in 30th.
31st went to Jake Geiger, and that's about one of the few cases, I think, where he can feel hard done by without it being anybody's fault, as he had an internet connection problem. Ryan McGee was 32nd, and Patrick Adamczyk 33rd. Then it's Henry Rogers, P34, and Will Kelly, 35th. This is where we're 2 laps down now. Anthony Solero had a huge hit mid-race and wound up 36. Gregorado, connection problems, wound up 37th, 5 laps down. Mungia in 38th, and then from there it's DNFs all the way to 42nd on the field. Looks like we have Sebastiano Ballestieri ready to talk to us. The driver out of New York manages to overtake his fellow New Yorker for that victory. Seb, I have to ask, was the 12-second pit stop for fuel, was that intentional, or did you forget that it needed to be a shorter pit stop for fuel, even though it wound up being the right call in the end?
Yeah, definitely. It was a big mistake on my part. I didn't calculate the 4 laps that I was supposed to subtract. Yeah, so I took a little too much fuel, but it worked out for me and not so much for my fellow Pegasus, Carl Bocchieri. We were running 1-2, and he ran out of gas right at the finish line. So I turned out to be a good call for me, not so good for him.
Indeed. And you actually were just among those that got involved at the start of the race with that big wreck. From your perspective and feelings on that, what went down there?
I'm not sure. I just took off, and all of a sudden it was like a parking lot in front of me. A big pile up of cars. I tried to weave around as many as I could, but eventually I did get caught up in some of them. And luckily my car didn't sustain any damage, so I didn't have to pit in. And I managed just to come around and restart without any issues.
Yeah, that was impressive because we were looking at the front of your car and it was pretty banged up from our perspective. So that was a fantastic job dealing with that and still managing a win. But we were talking about how Carl Bocchieri had won his race last series due to a lot of incidents back in Canada. Obviously, that kind of helped here, although you were there when you needed to be to come from 11 to the win. Do you feel like this is going to be a lone case for you in the sport class to take this victory in the first race, or are there more wins on the cards after this one?
Well, I don't think, and I hope it's not the only win. I feel like I'm pretty competitive with all the top runners. We've been practicing all week. I feel comfortable on this track. It's one of my favorite. I've been on this track with a live more than a dozen times with Carl Bocchieri. And I don't know, I feel like I'm going to be fighting for podiums because even though there is a lot of fast drivers in this sport series, but we are pretty close. So, you know, sometimes somebody's misfortune turns out to be your fortune, like tonight. And who knows? This just may be the beginning.
I like that positive outlook. Is there anybody, though, that you have to thank for tonight's win?
Well, for sure, I want to thank all of you guys. I mean, you know, for putting this magnificent series together. It's so very nicely done, and you know, of course, my family for putting up with me. We had to practice a lot, so every night almost every night of the week we have to practice in order to stay competitive. And I want to thank my friends, Carl Bocchieri, that I practice with all the time, George Markadakis, my other Pegasus fellow, and I just, you know, I'm glad to be in such a great group of people, and looking forward to the next one.
We do as well. That was Sebastiano Ballestieri with the win from 11th today, despite a car with a damaged front bumper. And meantime, DJ has caught up with the only driver to manage a 0X in this race, and that is Carl Bocchieri.
Carl, first off, let's start with the good. Yeah, you were able to escape there without incidents, and it looked like you were cruising. That has got to be something to take away after a, well, let's call it caution-filled race.
Yeah, happy about that. Didn't even know I had a 0X, so that's nice to know.
But on to the bad there, obviously losing it just right at the line there with fuel. Talk me through your emotions there coming through those final corners.
Well, I guess my crew chief didn't figure that the average fuel consumption because of the yellow flag laps was not correct, and I didn't think about that when I came in, so I was a little short. So the last, I don't know, maybe 5-6 laps, I was really slowing down trying to conserve fuel, because otherwise I would have come in to have to do another pit. So I thought I had done that enough, but in turn 9 it sputtered, and then in turn 10 it just almost stopped, and then when I straightened out I had enough oomph just to get past the finish line. But unfortunately Nino caught me, so my buddy he got the win.
Well, he did indeed, but just by the merest of margins. We head to Sebring next time out. Can we maybe expect another podium, maybe another look at a victory for you there?
I'd love it, but this is one of my home tracks. I've driven on this track a lot in real life, and we practice on this a lot. So, I'm very good at this track. Sebring, I'm not so good at, but you know what? I'm really going to try to do well this year. That was my goal, was to try to, get through the races without crashing, without having any incidents, and just being smooth. And so that's my goal, is to be smooth and consistent. So if I can just keep that up, I'll end up somewhere near the front, which is okay. I hope to do that.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world when we get there, Carl. But anybody you'd like to thank for this run here today?
Well, just, my racing buddies, Sebastiano and I, we practice a lot together, and we push each other. So that's really good. And my friend George, who's a club racer, he'll be racing on Friday. So we all practice a lot together, and we all really push each other and help each other out a lot. So those are the guys that really help me with my racing. And then again, the guys in Zone 1 who really, Chris Braun and all the guys who put on a lot of the practices that really help us out.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations again on a second place here today, Carl.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was Carl Boccieri, your second place finisher. Joe?
That's going to take us to third as Rachel's caught up with Peter Yurts, another one with a surprise finish on the podium today.
Yes, it was. Peter, an incredibly tumultuous race today, and some big gains for you. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Rachel, it was kind of a mess there at the beginning and put me back to like 21st place. I thought that's the end of this race, but I just kept climbing up through and just kept making progress, and other people were having accidents. And I was just, at the end, I was just fighting with Neocli for fifth place finish. I was pretty excited about that, but then everybody started coming out of the boot on the last lap. Everybody started running out of gas, and here I am on the podium for the first time since Series 4.
Well, congratulations on returning to the podium. Hopefully, this will not be the last time this season. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Well, I'd just like to thank everybody that puts this series on. It's a great series, a great league, and it's a lot of fun. And everybody is really helpful to help you improve your driving. And I'd like to thank my wife for putting up with all the nights that I'm by myself upstairs.
Well, I'm sure she'll be happy with the result too. Thanks for joining us, Peter Yerkes, coming home today with third.
Which is going to close us up for the evening. And of course, we want to give a big thank you to a few people before we go. We'll see you next time here at Watkins Glen at 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday, March 25th, live here on Podium Esports. And that is thanks, of course, to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing. And also thanks to our team tonight, Rachel, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.